This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Thursday. Welcome to the show where I am not high enough for this shit. I didn't have Discord open. Apparently, Warlord messaged me. Hey, buddy. Hey. Hey. Oh, yes, we're going to be talking about that tonight. Trump! All kinds of developments in Trump legal world. Clarence Thomas's wife, Jenny Thomas, actually lobbied to overturn the 2020 election. The Manhattan DA that was investigating Trump for financial crimes is now resigned. Their resignation letter was made public. And it's like, without a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, Trump committed crimes. And then Trump sued Hillary Clinton today. So we're gonna talk about all that bullshit in Trump world going on. What else we got? Oh, of course, we're going to cover the last day of the Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmation hearings. I had said that I would carry them live this morning. I actually overslept. I got up. I was watching. It was witness testimony. It wasn't questioning by senators today. And the witnesses were incredibly boring. So I thought they were going to. There was like a question and answer period. It was like an hour and a half. That's where shit got good. I thought they were going to take like a lunch break and then come back and do the question and answer, but they didn't do that. They just barreled right on through. So I did watch most of the hearing this morning. I just didn't stream it. So we're gonna go over the highlights, which include some shit about the 2020 election. My attorney general here in the great state of Alabama got put in the hot seat over the 2020 election and his views about whether or not Biden was the duly elected president and serving lawfully. Refused to say those words. What is up, Dip, Ginger, RB, Warlord? Lovely fuckers. Feed, don't mind if I do. That's the meme. That's the meme today. Just aggressive gibberish. Tom Hartman, one of my favorite radio hosts. You guys have never been exposed to him. I'm gonna play a clip of him tonight. He called the confirmation hearings a sexist, racist circus. Oh no, right? Republicans are aggressive as fuck. Aggressive gibberish. I would say passive aggressive describes the liberals. Yeah, circus, well, not the ones I went to when I was a kid. Fucking tortured elephants and fucking these weird cornies and probably malnourished horses and shit like that. The Dark Carnival, of course. Okay. The Dark Carnival. We're going to look at a Washington Post op-ed that called the confirmation hearings clownish behavior. Smokey's been driving me nuts. There was a strange cat in the backyard just a little while ago, and this motherfucker hasn't shut up since. And like he doesn't want anything. He's just pacing around going, meow, 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 meow. Because he's an asshole like that. Don't even know where he went. We're going to hear from my buddy Del Jackson, a radio host in Alabama. Since we had the Attorney General, that's why I wanted to go check in on my buddy Del Jackson, because the Attorney General testified earlier today. We're gonna get Del's thoughts on how you can't question Judge Jackson on anything. And we're gonna compare that with some of the questions that Senator Ted Cruz asked Judge Jackson. He had some fantastic questions. Instead of doing this meme, I almost just used this picture. I was like, that's it. That's the meme. Asian man. Oh, fuck. Then we're gonna hear from the conservative mama. I think that's it. Conservative mama was watching the Supreme Court hearings, and she wanted to weigh in on the proceedings. Biden gave a speech today in front of NATO. I'm sorry, like I also said I would carry that, but I was uploading some videos when I saw that it was on. He was already speaking. I'm like, well, goddamn, I can't cancel these videos right now. What's up, Smokey? Yeah, you just saw Smokey's tail go by. He didn't even stop to say hi. He's over there at the window. See, he's just pacing around the apartment right now. Meow, meow, meow. NATO issued a warning about the use of chemical weapons. Ukraine. We're going to get the fourth pig perspective. The fourth pig perspective. Yeah, I got some catnip. They fucking love they fucking love catnip. I get them high all the time. Well, I would sit here and get myself high, not get the cats high. Maynard likes it the least of them, but fucking Socks is a nip fiend. He comes over here and licks the carpet and shit sometimes where I put the nip down for him. But nip would just make him more wild, Dip. It chills Maynard out. Maynard will go take a nap. Socks gets the munchies. And Smokey goes fucking buck wild. It's wild. It affects all three of them completely different. Socks gets the munchies. Maynard goes and passes out. I don't know what it's like to cats. I don't know if it's I wouldn't think it's like Coke, because Maynard passes. I mean, clearly substances affect everybody differently. But Maynard goes and takes a nap. That's like his thing. He gets nipped up, he goes in there and lays on the bed. And he's calm when he's rolling around in it too. Whereas the others are like We're going to get the fourth pig perspective. Four horsemen, fourth pig. Going to come to us from Dave Ramsey, the financial advisor. Wall Street killing it today. Closing high, but the price of oil down. Julian Assange gets married while incarcerated. We're going to check in with the Missouri Senate primary, where the Trump-endorsed candidate has been accused of abuse by his ex-wife. An investigator in the case looking into him has actually pled guilty to tampering with evidence. So wild fucking story in Missouri. Congresswoman Cori Bush a fucking badass, has vowed to make sure that Medicare for all is back in the conversation. Apparently drafting new legislation. The census reports on COVID deaths. New York City Mayor Eric Adams lifts restrictions, all mandates, vaccine mandates. Meanwhile, Fauci says he doesn't expect another wave here in the U.S. This is while COVID cases are going up in 9 states. That's what we have for you on the show here tonight. I'm going to get a little high, and then we'll delve into this nonsense. Got my meme up. I got this other show too. It's called Cancel Culture. By some right-wingers we've never watched before. Well, I think they are enlightened centrists. But it's kind of long, so we might not get to that tonight. We might do that on Sunday. Oh. Also, I have some fantastic news for you. How do you guys like the sound of Congresswoman Sarah Palin? Congresswoman Sarah Palin. How does that sound to you? None of the cats like weed. I've had cats that enjoy, a little puff in the face. They'll like come up and get in your lap. Like you can tell the ones they want a little, hey, give me a little hit. None of my 3 like marijuana at all. But they also, like, I've had cats that are completely averse to it as well. But like, if I'm smoking, Smokey will stay in my lap, Socks will stay in my lap, but they're not wanting to hit. They like the nip. They keep it to the nip. They haven't gone on to any harder drugs. Oh God, Smokey sprayed that one night, and I almost was like, should I sniff this? I'm a fiend. Should I cheese? Aggressive gibberish. Maybe Sarah Palin still got that COVID fog going on. Her bout with it. This is the opening of this morning's session. This is the chairman, Senator Dick Durbin, talking about the Republican tax from yesterday.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Guests who are testifying before us today. The Supreme Court hearings end with a day of testimony from outside witnesses, and this approach will be no different. The last 3 days have been long, exhausting for senators, and I'm certain there were much more so for Judge Jackson. I believe that she carried herself with grace, humility, and dignity, was thoughtful and forthright in her responses. I can't tell.
Apparently, some Democrats, I would say the ones that are more on the corporatist side, have attacked her
yesterday's hearing
over her performance, saying she was unprepared.
Maintain that grace and dignity throughout all of the questioning. I look forward to hearing from today's witnesses, starting with the American Bar Association Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary. With us today from the ABA are 3 witnesses.
We're going to hear Senator Grassley's questions with the American Bar Association.
Miss Jean Vita. I'm glad all 3 are here, and I would be remiss if I didn't say a special word about my dear friend Judge Williams, an Illinoisan, the first judge of color to sit on the 7th Circuit, and a special attachment she has to Notre Dame University, which I learned. She was nominated by
Democrats. This fucking
to serve on the Northern District of
schmoozing bullshit doesn't fly.
Nominated by President Clinton. Talk about bipartisanship. with my strong support to serve on the Seventh Circuit. After stepping down from the bench,
Hey, it is not my choice. It is the governor of Alaska's choice.
Focuses on efforts to advance.
You blame him, not me. I'm just the messenger.
Truly a respected leader in the Chicago legal community, and I'm looking forward to her testimony. These panelists from the ABA are here to talk about their rating of Judge Jackson, a unanimous rating of well qualified. The Standing Committee confines its evaluations to qualities of integrity, professional competence, and judicial temperament. And they unanimously found Judge Jackson in all of these areas to be deserving of their highest rating. This comes as no surprise. It's exactly.
And they are there to tackle the
Jackson. And I'm looking forward to hearing
question of
evaluation.
Jackson's leniency on child pornographers and child sex
I want to
abusers.
salute this man sitting to my right and to your left. I am fortunate to have a Republican leader on their side who is such a gentleman and
Referring to Grassley.
high degree of integrity. He and I were just reminiscing about the history of the Senate, and
Now that's your key to her even advancing out of the judiciary. 3 of the senators already have said no, they will not vote for her. As I predicted, you've got to have one Republican vote for it in order to get her out of that committee. Holly, Cruz, and Blackburn, no, have already said no, they will not vote for her. Grassley's your hope right there, so that could be the reason why Durbin is buttering him up.
the nomination process. Throughout, we
He
have
is the
maintained
co-chair
a close
of the
relationship,
committee.
No surprises, no stabs in the back, so that we know which way we're going. I'm a lucky man to have him as my ranking member. Thank you, Senator Grassley.
Mr. Chair. Over here. Mr. Chair.
Oh, there, Senator Ellis, I'm sorry.
I also would like to point out that 62 years ago this week, Chuck Grassley started his political career.
Who gives a shit? Stop filleting yourselves.
I believe I shared a picture with him this week, and I believe that picture was him debating Iowa statehood. I'm not sure, but and I also reminded him that he gave birth to his political career a year after my mother gave me.
He called him old.
Well, I will tell you that
I mean, he is.
I'm also fearful of what I just said, because one year I did something like this, and he took a quote from me and put it in his campaign brochure. I received telephone calls from Iowa Democrats saying, "What are you doing?" So don't do it again.
Yeah, you.
I want to thank
Democrats are fucking horrible at the actual politics.
handle themselves professionally in the best traditions of the United States Senate. Senator Sass in Nebraska is not here, but I want to thank him particularly for a comment he made, which has been quoted widely.
I mean, you ain't wrong, RB.
Gassery, which I had never heard before, and I thank him for that observation, because I think there was great truth in what he said.
So apparently, Durbin had never heard the phrase jackassery. I find that hard to believe. How are you on this earth for 70-something years? You've never heard the term jackassery. But apparently, it is now in the congressional record that Durbin has referred to the Republican behavior during this hearing as jackassery. I like it.
I wish I could say that across the board. On our side of the aisle, I'm proud of all our members, particularly proud of one member who spoke at the right moment. My wife is my go-to critic of what's happening in my political life and on this committee. And she said when Cory Booker spoke,
Cory Booker's head can't get any bigger.
refocus us on what we were doing and why we were here. And I have to tell you, his statement will go down in the annals of this committee and the United States Senate for the impact that they had at the moment. I wish I could say that for all of the things that have happened over the last 72 hours, but I can't. Some of the attacks on this judge were unfair, unrelenting, and beneath the dignity of the United States Senate. You can disagree with a senator's vote. You can disagree with a judge's ruling, but to draw conclusions that really reflect on them personally and their values and take that to the extreme is unfair, whether the nominee is a Democrat or a Republican. I was so saddened by that, and it happened over and over and over again. And I hope that that is not the lasting impression that people have of the work of this committee. My lasting impression is a judge who sat there through it all, head held high with dignity and determination and strength. A lesser person might have picked up and told her,
Jackassery.
This is beyond the pale. She didn't. And it says an awful lot to me about her character and why the president was correct in choosing her to be the next Supreme Court justice. Before we turn to questions, I want to turn to Senator
Oh, did you say Senator Grassley? That's who we're going to, but this was later on in the hearing. Grassley asked questions of the American Bar Association.
Thank you all for your testimony today, and I know a lot of hard work went into what you've produced.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cornyn.
I want to just ask.
I wrote Grassley over here.
About the American Bar Association. I've been a member of the American Bar Association.
My apologies.
In the past, frankly, on occasion, I've been troubled by some of the public advocacy of the American Bar Association on behalf of the legal profession that frankly did not represent my views. And I'm just looking here at for example, at the website of the American Bar Association, and under a heading that says, "What's New in Washington?" For example, the ABA president wrote a letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security urging temporary protected status for people who are refugees from Ukraine, for example. That's obviously a matter of great public interest.
Yes.
But some of the areas that that the ABA president has also opined on, for example, opposing certain provisions of Florida legislation.
The Don't Say Gay bill? I wonder why the ABA would
1557
be against that.
Parental rights.
And it doesn't seem like it's the ABA, it's just the president.
Obviously, that's another matter of tremendous public interest.
I don't think there's been any update on Justice Thomas yet,
and
Warlord.
elsewhere.
But we got an update on his wife.
I'll mention because there's a whole long list, and but I'm trying to give you some specifics that hopefully frame my question. There is also a position where the ABA is asking for migrants who cross the southwestern border and claim asylum to provide them lawyers.
Oh, he is absolutely an asshat,
2 million,
Ida.
roughly, people in border encounters in this last year alone. Obviously, whether or not taxpayers should be required to provide lawyers for people who are not citizens of the United States and who are claiming asylum is a controversial matter. So I'd like to know how should people understand ABA's role when it comes to speaking to these matters? Or are you a public advocacy association? And if so, people,
I think they advocate on the side of the law.
Maybe some of the opinions you render in terms of judicial qualification should be understood in a larger context. But I'd appreciate if you'd take a stab at answering my maybe not great, well-formed question.
No, it wasn't. You're an idiot.
Oh, I definitely get the drift. And Senator, I think it's really important for me to make clear.
Like, I'm not stupid. I know what you're saying.
Action that the ABA takes with respect to the standing committee is appointing the members of the committee. We stand alone. The only function that we have is peer review evaluation. So we do not stand for the American Bar Association in the sense that you made all the different positions you outlined, and that's purposeful. It's purposeful that we do our work in rating nominees and don't have anything to do with the policies of the American Bar Association. Both Gene and Joe have served on the committee longer and might want to comment on that as well.
Certainly.
Yes, Senator. As Judge Williams said, we are separate and apart from the ABA. So I understand the questions you're raising about ABA policies and would invite you to ask those of the president of the ABA, because as Judge Williams said, our committee has nothing.
Cornyn knows that. He's a lawyer.
Well, you're here representing the ABA, correct?
He was the Attorney General of Texas.
Standing Committee of the Federal Judiciary of the American Bar Association.
Went to the University of Virginia Law School, Thomas Jefferson's fucking university.
Right. But that's part of the ABA, right?
As Judge Williams said, we are appointed by the president of the American Bar Association, but that's the only substantive interaction we have with the ABA.
Well, I know in times past, the ABA has appeared to be frankly, a partisan during some of the judicial confirmation proceedings that I participated.
No, you mean members of the ABA.
And that's a cause for concern. I'm not suggesting that's happening here today, and I take your testimony at face value. I know you've done a lot of hard work, and I appreciate that. That's important. Your voice is important. But I think one of the things that Senator Grassley perhaps alluded to in the past, some Supreme Court nomination proceedings.
So I was wrong. He wasn't even going to get into the ABA's testimony on
in controversial
her judicial record. He's just questioning that he's
the case today.
impugning the integrity of the ABA itself.
Concern about whether we should take the testimony of the Standing Committee at face value, or whether you're a combatant in the political battles that rage here in Washington sometimes over judicial nominations.
Senator, just let me say there's been no communication of our committee with the ABA about any of our work. It is designed so that we can do it separately. Joe?
And Senator, what I will follow up just to say that we're trained to be independent. We basically take an oath amongst our committee members to be independent, and we focus on the three criteria: integrity, judicial competence, and
Intelligence, integrity, and
so in that regard, we focus.
fuck. What are the three eyes?
We
Fucking
focus on the writing
Kurt
side.
Angle would be so ashamed of me right
focus on
now.
The feedback we get from the lawyers and judges that practice with the nominee, against the nominee, and administer
Intensity,
justice
integrity,
alongside
intelligence.
the
Is that it?
Well, Mr. Drayton, I know part of the questioning of the judge had to do with, for example, sentencing that Senator Durbin and others brought up. Did the ABA itself review Judge Jackson's sentencing memoranda as part of your investigation?
We reviewed the publicly available records for a sampling of her sentencing, including the child pornography cases and the sex offense cases. And we looked at the recommendations of the prosecutors. We looked at the recommendations of the defense. We looked at whether she did, in fact, in some cases, look at sentencing statistics of other judges. And so we looked at the record and how she came out, and it didn't appear as though she favored the prosecutor nor the defense in such cases.
Well, you made an important qualification. You said publicly available. In other words, and I've heard the chairman talk about his concerns about public distribution of some of the sentencing memoranda. And so you did not review all of Judge Jackson's sentencing memoranda, only a portion. Is that correct?
So perhaps I could clarify. The pre-sentence report is highly confidential. Only the
Hey,
judge
Corden, did you read any of the bills you have passed in your fucking career?
of the individual defendant. We could not review the pre-sentence report. Secondly, there were not transcripts.
Fuck, I'm not high enough for this shit.
You know, if we had a transcript of the hearing, we could review that. But there are memos filed. Those are public. What the position the prosecution takes, the position the defense takes, that is available in a public record, and the dockets are there. So we did as much as we could.
I understand, Judge. I just want, the only point I was trying
Do
to
you?
did not have access to everything in her record, but you did have access to what was public. Is that correct?
Yes, and we thought that that was sufficient.
Substantial amount of the record.
Well, you had me until you said you thought that was sufficient. How do you know if you didn't get access to the rest of the record?
Well, in many cases, we spoke to the prosecutors and the defense attorneys.
Right.
And they gave us their thoughts and opinions. And they walked away and said she calls balls and strikes.
Curious, sir. Aaron, welcome.
I'd be happy to go before her again in cases. We also create into her reputation because, as you know, folks talk and they mingle and they're out.
The caucasity
and her reputation is stellar. And so we did.
Of Senator Cornyn.
We asked questions of these prosecutors and these defense attorneys.
That's especially true in my experience of the legal profession, Mr. Drayton.
I am yelling at this idiot old
again,
man.
these people that you talk to are anonymous.
Senator John Cornyn
They've been
of
unnamed
Texas.
for the reasons that Judge Williams described.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator.
Elder abuse. Elder abuse. Now, this was the big fireworks moment this morning.
Mr. Marshall.
This is Sheldon Whitehouse questioning the Alabama Attorney General, Steve Marshall. Steve Marshall was there to oppose Judge Jackson's nomination on the grounds that she was soft on crime or some bullshit. Senator Whitehouse questions Marshall about his involvement in January 6th.
Marshall, you were the chairman of the Republican Attorney General's Association and the Rule of Law Defense Fund in the run-up to the January 6th assault on the Capitol. And Rule of Law Defense Fund sent robocalls urging recipients to march to the Capitol on January 6th. Were you personally present in Washington, D.C. on January 6th? Your microphone should probably come on.
I was not.
Did RAGA or RLDF
Turn your phone on, foo.
present here?
Can't speak to that, but Senator, what I can tell you is that we have denounced lawlessness. Not only is it related to what took place on January 6th, but also the lawlessness that continues to go on across our country with violent crime. And what I would hope is as part of this,
he has signed on to a lot of stupid shit.
Our nominee about her philosophy on criminal justice as it relates to decisions she would make on the.
What's up, Flash?
Do you personally know of or approve the text of the robocall that went out from RLDF?
No.
Do you know how that robocall was funded? Was that out of general revenues of RLDF, or was a specific solicitation made to fund it?
No knowledge.
No knowledge? Did you personally solicit funding for that robocall?
Senator, I've made multiple comments here already. The question before.
RLDF is the Rule of Law Defense Fund, an arm of the Republican Attorneys General Association. It is a far-right nonsense group.
For this body is the nomination.
I get to ask you questions.
Yes, sir.
And my
what
question
I am
to
telling
you
you is that
did
we
you
have denounced
personally
what took place that day, as we do
money
continue to denounce the
for the
violence taking place
RLDF
across this country.
robocall that day? Pretty simple question. Yes or no, did you personally solicit money to support the robocall that brought people to the Capitol and who then assaulted the Capitol?
No.
Very well. Did you have any contact with members of Congress in any effort to keep the electoral process open through objections to give those coming to assault the Capitol time to breach the Capitol and disrupt the elections process?
No.
Have you offered any testimony to the January 6th?
So Marshall was the head of the organization that paid for those robocalls. The Attorney General of Alabama, the robocalls that told everyone to go to the Capitol to protest on January 6th.
Been asked.
You've not been asked. As you sit
detailing when and where citizens should
enjoy the
meet.
protection of the Capitol police officers who are here and who defended our Capitol against the assault on January 6th by the crowd that your organization helped recruit. Do you have anything to say to them, particularly to those who were injured in the line of duty on that day?
Senator, I object to the premise of your question that somehow or another the organization I was connected with had anything to do with the violence that took place. We've denounced that violence before, and as I've done with you here today.
Is Joseph R. Biden of Delaware the duly elected and lawfully serving President of the United States of America?
He is the President of this country.
Is he the duly elected and lawfully serving President of the United States?
He is the President of our country.
Are you answering
The
that,
affirmative?
omitting the language duly elected and lawfully serving purposefully?
I'm answering the question. He is the President of the United States.
And you have no view as to whether he was duly elected or is lawfully serving?
I'm telling you he's the President of the United States.
No further questions.
There you go. Refuses to say Joe Biden is lawfully serving. Here is radio host Tom Hartman with his assessment.
That the hearings for Judge Jackson were basically, an opportunity for a handful of Republican senators who want to become president to craft a 30.
Marsha Blackburn is probably auditioning for a vice presidential slot. There's a whole fucking basket of crazy over there that wants to run alongside Trump. What was that one lieutenant governor in fucking was it Idaho? Where she kept grandstanding and shit. I felt like she was trying to get Trump's attention for a possible VP pick.
Second soundbite that would appear on Fox News. I predicted that yesterday. It happened last night, just exactly as I predicted. These Republican senators have no interest.
It could be Ivanka.
Judge Jackson is qualified. By the way, she has more judicial experience than.
I mean, it's a wonder it wasn't Ivanka the first time. Honest to God. If Ivanka will have anything to do with him. We don't know what that relationship is like. Ivanka and Jared are apparently keeping a very low profile. So, apparently they felt very ostracized in the hoity-toity community after Trump's term came to an end. He would definitely not pick Eric or Dawn. He certainly wouldn't pick Tiffany. But it is a wonder that Ivanka wasn't his running mate. But he also had, once he won the Republican nomination, because this is what's going to be interesting about a second Trump run, is that once he won the Republican nomination, he actually had an establishment machine behind him, but he has destroyed that machine. There is no establishment Republicans around him anymore. He's just batshit crazy, and he will do whatever the fuck he feels like. A second Trump run for the White House is going to be fucking wild. I thought he was going to be bankrupted by investigations, but apparently not. Apparently we're not going to be moving forward with the Manhattan DA's investigation. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Anyway, Tom Hartman summing up what happened with Ketanji Brown Jackson.
4 people currently sitting on the Supreme Court. And clearly, compare her performance to Beer Bong Biff, right? Beer Bong Biff. It's just night and day. It's just. Anyway.
Now, I will. To be fair, Kavanaugh did, okay during the first round of hearings. It was when he became indignant when it was the 2 days that got tacked on after the allegations came out, and they called him back in front of the committee.
Warnock, a Democrat from Georgia who's also black, he said, I do think it's a legitimate question to ask if these, and he's speaking of these Republican senators, would be asking these questions if she wasn't a black woman. basically asking her to defend, the 1619 Project. Well, she has nothing to do with that. Oh, but it has a black woman who put it together. Don't you know?
Or books about racist babies.
Critical race theory has, it's not even taught in our schools, and yet Marsha Blackburn kept saying, and Ted Cruz, critical race theory in kindergarten. Yes. This is all just grandstanding. And I might add, racist grandstanding by white Republican senators.
Old, crusty white men.
Talking about mass
and woman.
Talking about transgender women in sports. Everything they could do to try to just smear her and get that little 60-second soundbite. And it's frankly pathetic. It's a terrible reflection on today's Republican Party. It validates the point that I've made on this program over and over and over again, that the Republican Party has been captured. Not that there wasn't ever a shortage of racists and misogynists in it, but it has been captured basically, particularly since the Trump era, by neo-fascists who ground their love and hope for an authoritarian dictatorship in the United States in their belief that white people are the superior race and therefore should run everything, and that men are superior to women, and therefore women should always be subordinate to them and do whatever they say. And, and their attempts to put this into law by rolling back Supreme Court decisions and passing legislation and grandstanding like this. I'm just...
Speaking of Marsha Blackburn, I saw a meme, and I can't find it right now, but it had this picture, and it said, Judge Brown, what is a woman? The definition better have something like Aquanet. I'm fucking it up. I don't remember what the fucking meme actually said. I wish I could have found it. The definition better contain Aquanet or something like that. Fucking Marsha Blackburn. Let me go back to that picture. That woman was an image consultant. That's what she did. I don't want to belittle image consultants, but first, image consultants shouldn't be serving in the United States Senate. And how in the fuck was that woman an image consultant? Would you go out of the house looking like that? What the fuck? What kind of hairdo is that? Did she go into a barber and say, have you ever seen a bowl of spaghetti, pour it over a mannequin head? Say no more. What the fuck is that? What kind of style is that?
So offended by the disrespect that was shown to an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary legal scholar, by these white people on the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Always the white people.
Republicans. It was beyond disgusting.
The Washington Post described it as clownish. Republican senators who attempted to smear Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson during her confirmation hearing this week are being denounced by the Washington Post editorial board for their clownish behavior. In a scathing editorial, the newspaper writes, during the hearings, Republicans such as Lindsey Graham have congratulated themselves for declining to treat Judge Jackson the way Democrats handled the nomination of Brett M. Kavanaugh. In fact, by the most relevant measures, Mr. Graham and a handful of other Judiciary Committee Republicans have handled themselves worse. Graham's attempt to paint the judge as friendly to child pornographers obviously was hollow. The editorial points out, as demonstrated by sentences Jackson meted out in cases that have come before her. The paper also singled out Graham's attack on Jackson's work defending detainees at Guantanamo Bay after saying he wouldn't do exactly that. Other Republicans were singled out in the editorial for their obvious posturing, such as Senator Marsha Blackburn. Now, I want to... fucking Graham asked Jackson about, I forgot all about this. Kavanaugh, right. Here we go. Listen to this line of questioning. I think this was the first day.
And listen, you've lived an incredible life, but here's one thing that won't happen to you as we wrap this up. How would you feel that if I'd had a letter from somebody accusing you of something, a crime or misconduct, for weeks, and I give it to Senator Durbin just before this hearing's over, and not allow you to comment on the accusation? How would you feel about that?
Senator, I'm not sure. I don't understand the context of the question.
Well, did you watch the Kavanaugh hearings?
No, sir.
Still salty about Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh hearings.
Generally.
Senator, your time is.
Well, please, Mr. Chairman. So, to be honest, it's a minute and 47 seconds.
You're still trying to
She
cope?
filibustered every question I had, and she has a right to give an answer, but I'm trying to make a point in 20 minutes. You were here for Kavanaugh. If she's confused about what happened, some people on the other side had an accusation against Judge Kavanaugh that during high school, he sexually assaulted somebody. And the rest is history. That was known to the people on the other side and never revealed during the meetings they had with Judge Kavanaugh.
It leaked to the press, and then public pressure made that happen. And he still got on the Supreme Court.
Senator, I've appreciated the kindness that each of you has shown me to see me in your offices to
He's
talk
so
with
good
me about my approach.
But my question is, what if during our 15-minute exchange, it was very pleasant. You're a very nice person. You have a lot to be proud of. I would never do that to you. If I had some information that's sketchy at best, that somehow you've done something wrong, I promise you, just from human decency, I would share it with you. I would not disclose it at the last minute of the last day of the hearing, and I've already given it to a newspaper so the whole country can read about it before you ever said a word.
Senator, she's had nothing to do with the cause.
No, but I'm asking her about
you won't even let
how,
her finish.
how
For
she
nothing.
feel about what y'all did.
Could we have order?
Senator, your
We have order. I think Lindsey Graham walked out after that. That was walkout number 1. Aaron Rupert. I searched for that.
I know.
Let's say Aaron Rupert might have had the walkout right under that. Now we're gonna go hear from Alabama radio host Del Jackson, my friend. Del has some thoughts on the ability to question Judge Jackson during these Supreme Court hearings. Apparently, he feels that it's okay to question conservatives, but somehow the Republicans have been held back from asking questions, or she's dodging answering them. Let's see what he has to say.
If the American media didn't have double standards, they would have no standards.
Ooh, we're gonna get an attack on the media. This is some fresh perspective from a right-wing commentator right here.
Welcome to today's Yellowhammer Now. We've got some cable news craziness with you, sticking with the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings and how this is being handled by our friends in the media and their Democrats, and why in the world we're constantly seeing these things being handled very differently depending on who's sitting in the chair. It is very strange. First, let's take a look at The View, a show you
Strange,
should never,
strange.
watch. But they'll make it clear that looking at Justice Amy Coney
And he still sounds like shit with his nice padding in his echo chamber.
beliefs. And after all, when you look at what's coming before the court, we should know her religious beliefs before she gets to rule on these things. But with Ketanji Brown Jackson asking her about her faith, well, that's just trolling, because we don't need to know what she believes because she already believes the right thing. on the issue of abortion. This isn't my argument. This is the argument being made on The View. Roll it.
There was questions about the organizations, the religious organizations, fundamental religious organizations that Amy Coney Barrett was involved with, that are influential in politics. That's the reason why it was an issue. I don't know what the issue is with Ketanji Brown Jackson's faith. I don't, other than an issue of politics when you're involved in political groups and these weird cults, these weird religious sects. I don't see what because the Constitution forbids religious tests, Dill.
Let me jump in here, because when Lindsey Graham was referencing the religion, you could tell it was rhetorical and he was trolling, because that's what had happened to Amy Coney Barrett. But the difference was it made sense for Amy Coney Barrett to be questioned on those things purely because one of the number one issues dividing this country is a woman's right to choose versus pro-life. And it's it's greatly and mostly based in a religious belief and separating that belief out. So the fact that Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, is her whole life was enmeshed in religion. It was beyond just she goes to church on Sundays. She was on board. She was on pro-life board. So when they pressed her on religion, whereas Lindsey Graham had kind of couched it in, they're trolling all this personal information, it absolutely was necessary in the questioning of Amy Coney Barrett. Whereas when they did it to Ketanji Brown, they're trolling her. They're trying to make her out to be something. And what I saw this is they're not going to vote on anything they hear in this hearing. They're going to vote down party lines. She's going to go through, and she deserves to go through. Yeah. But this was about campaigning for presidency. This was
Absolutely.
Grant, they're all trying to ride on her coattails already, whereas she's.
I mean, I'm still skeptical that she's going to make it out of the committee. That you can get Grassley to vote for her.
Of a woman, it speaks to how unassailable she is. That it's reached this absurd level.
I hate to break this to these people, but the issue of abortion, well, it does divide along religious lines. It still doesn't mean that just because you don't have any faith or weak faith or a faith that allows abortion on demand, it doesn't mean that we don't have a right to know exactly what you mean and why you make the decisions you do. I'm sorry, this isn't what this... I hate to break it to these people, but it is pretty clear to me that there's a...
I think he meant to cut there, and he didn't cut. Did a little thing with your editing there, Dill.
Religious bias taking place here. Just because Amy Coney Barrett has strong religious beliefs and another person doesn't have strong religious beliefs doesn't mean we shouldn't talk to them about those religious beliefs. Because if Amy Coney Barrett's religion impacts how she makes decisions, the lack of religion or the difference in religion could impact how another person makes a decision. So those questions to Ketanji Brown Jackson are completely legitimate, and this argument is silly. Speaking of silly, Gayle King, CBS. She looks at this case with Ketanji Brown Jackson and feels really bad.
Did what he just say make sense?
In the hearing room on Capitol Hill. Nicole, I watched a lot of the hearings yesterday. It was very painful to watch.
These are the same exact people that thought what happened to Brett Kavanaugh was fine, that he shouldn't have been appointed because of accusations from 40 years ago. Remember, the only thing Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked at this whole entire thing was about her record and her person. There were no allegations or accusations.
All she was asked about was her record and her person. Let's see if that is true, Del Jackson. Let's see if we can get a sampling of the questions that Ketanji Brown Jackson faced, a la Ted Cruz. Here is an example of the questioning he faced.
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are...
He was only asked about a record.
Believe in any of that.
Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
You agree that babies are racist? Stupid ass fucking question. What else did Ted Cruz ask her?
I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypothetical.
Example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
How stupid! You want one more? You want another one from Senator Ted Cruz? This one posted by the RNC itself. The Republicans with the self-own yet again.
What a woman is. That you are not a biologist, which I think you're the only Supreme Court nominee in history who's been unable to answer the question, what is a woman? Let me ask you,
has that ever been asked at a Supreme Court confirmation hearing? I may be wrong. It may have been asked. But, I don't think so. You're the only person who has ever not answered what is a woman in these hearings. As if it's like a routine question that they ask all the time.
as a judge, how would you determine if a plaintiff had Article III standing to challenge a gender-based rule, regulation, policy, without being able to determine what a woman was?
So, Senator, I know that I'm a woman. I know that Senator Blackburn is a woman, and the woman who I admire most in the world is in the room today, my mother. It sounded as though the question was...
But let me ask, under the modern leftist sensibilities, if I decide right now that I'm a woman, then apparently I'm a woman. Does that mean that I would have Article III standing to challenge a gender-based restriction?
Senator, to the extent that you are asking me about who has the ability to bring lawsuits based on gender, those kinds of issues are working their way through the courts, and I'm not able to comment on them.
Yeah, there isn't legal precedent to point to. That's the type of questioning that the Republicans engaged in.
Her specific record, which is exactly what should happen at these hearings, not the nonstop
her specific record
slander paloozas that we've seen when Republicans like Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh,
as if trying to make her out to be light on child pornographers isn't slander. Dell, oh my God.
Are up there. And remember, Brett Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas, they are still smeared with those same accusations to this day. They still claim that they've been credibly accused of sexual assault or sexual harassment when there is no evidence that those reports were ever credible. It again is a double standard, and it never...
But there is evidence to women's testimony. We believe the women that testified as to what Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh did to them. They were indeed credible. Holy shit! Right-wingers are absolute morons. Dumbest fucks walking the planet. Speaking of morons, here is conservative mama, who has been keeping up with the Supreme Court hearings, and she had this to say.
So today was a rough day. I've been watching the Supreme Court Justice confirmation hearings of Judge Jackson, and up until today, I thought that Ringo,
cute dog.
I thought he was a dog. But I'm not a veterinarian. So, I mean, really can't say. I can't say what it is. I can't say what it is. So I don't know.
Well, ma'am, let's say there was a debate about whether your dog Ringo there was a dog or maybe he was a coyote or a wolf. They are in the same, is it phylum? Is that the classification, the biological classification? If there is debate over whether your dog might just be a domesticated wolf or a coyote, who are you going to consult to see which one they are? Go to a veterinarian, right? A genus. You would go to a veterinarian or you go to a zoologist, somebody like that is knowledgeable on the subject now, wouldn't you? So if you have a case where you've got an intersex person, where you've got somebody that is somewhere in the gray area of sex expression and gender, then you would go to a biologist to determine that. Because that's what we're talking about here. Fucking judges aren't ruling on cases that are, like blatantly obvious and shit, right? You're ruling on cases that are decided in the margins, that you like there's questions at hand, which is why it has to come before a judge to be adjudicated, ma'am. And that's what she meant when she said these questions are working their way up through the court. Because as a Supreme Court justice, it would be her job to rule on whether interpretations of the law passed by states, the federal government, are constitutional or not. So there would have to be a case, a challenge to one of these title laws, go before the courts, where the courts rule on the question of what a woman is. And it's probably going to be like multifaceted. There's going to be a test, much like they have, other tests for things on the court. Fetal viability. And there will be like multi-prongs applied to it. And once that is a precedent, maybe somebody will have a case that challenges that already established law, and then the Supreme Court would look at it. Because that's the way our system works. Though I think my stoned ass kind of trailed off there and didn't explain it very well.
It's been a rough day.
I'm sorry you've had a rough day, conservative mama. Been a rough one for me too. Probably been a rough one for Ginny Thomas. Husband appears to still be in the hospital. We have not gotten an update. The court is being tight-lipped. People around him have taken to Twitter and social media and said, pray for Clarence Thomas. So it seems like things are kind of dire. But to add to that, we have new revelations a la the January 6th committee about Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny Thomas, and her political pursuits. Tim Scoot might very well be in the running for a vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump in the second run. Breyer is retiring, yes. That is the hearings for Judge Jackson are for Justice Breyer's seat. Texts show Ginny Thomas pushed Meadows to help overturn the 2020 election. Ginny Thomas, a conservative activist and the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, Old Pube Can as I like to call him, played an active role in pushing then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to take measures to help overturn the 2020 election results, according to texts obtained by the Washington Post and CBS News. Texts, which were among the materials Meadows handed over to the January 6th Select Committee, reveal her deep ties to Trump's inner circle during a time when Trump and his allies were vowing to go to the Supreme Court in an effort to negate the election results. Apparently, according to Chris Hayes on Twitter, he actually sent Meadows like some wild-ass fucking conspiracy video on YouTube. The kind of shit like Echoplex Media would be watching. Spokesperson for the committee declined to comment. Thomas and an attorney for Meadows did not immediately respond to emailed requests for comment. The message to the public information officer at the Supreme Court was also not immediately answered. On November 10th, after President Joe Biden was elected the winner, or projected the winner, Ginny Thomas texted Meadows, "Help this great president stand firm, Mark. You are the leader with him who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history." A few weeks later, Meadows encouraged her to keep up hope in this fight of good versus evil. "Thank you, needed that. I will try to keep holding on. America is worth it." 29 messages reported by the Post and CBS News show that both Thomas and Meadows believed the election was stolen. She urged Meadows to make Sidney Powell, a conspiracy theorist who spouted baseless claims of election fraud, the lead and the face of Trump's legal team, and advocated for a forceful response to Trump staffers and Republican lawmakers who did not agree with the need to overturn the election. 4 days after the Stop the Steal rally, which she attended, which Ginny Thomas attended, and the Capitol insurrection, Thomas texted she left before the insurrection. Thomas texted Meadows, doubling down on her support for Trump and criticizing Vice President Mike Pence, who had refused to interfere with the certification of Biden's victory. "We are living through what feels like the end of America," Thomas wrote. "Most of us are disgusted with the VP and are in listening mode to see where to fight with our teams. Those who attack the Capitol are not representative of our great teams of patriots for DJT." Holy shit, this woman is crazy. I hope Clarence Thomas doesn't fare well. I was getting ready to say something far more harsh. But even if he pulls through, impeach that motherfucker. Throw him off the bench. He should have never been a justice. And I've watched those hearings because I'm like that. I've watched the Clarence Thomas hearings, and I've watched documentaries about the Clarence Thomas hearings. He should have never been a justice, and he needs to be removed immediately. Hopefully, maybe there's a God and he's going to do it for us. Praise him. Amazing times, the end of liberty. Attorney for Meadows confirmed the messages to the Post and CBS, but would not comment on their contents except to say nothing about the text messages presents any legal issues. Thomas has long maintained that her work does not pose a conflict of interest for her husband. Bullshit. They got that Trump derangement syndrome. Here is Mo Brooks, the congressman from Alabama running for Senate, running for Richard Shelby's Senate seat. Shelby is retiring. Mo Brooks is talking about how Trump is still currently, presently, telling lawmakers they need to overturn the 2020 election. No shit. He is still harping on how it was stolen and Joe Biden should be removed from office.
Pulled his endorsement of Congressman Mo Brooks, who is running for the U.S. Senate seat in Alabama. Joining us this morning in studio is Congressman Brooks. Good to see you. Thank you for being here with us.
My pleasure. It's always enjoyable to be with you.
Busy day yesterday. I want to read a statement from former President Donald Trump about you, and I know you've seen this statement. Mo Brooks of Alabama made a horrible mistake recently when he went woke and stated, referring to the 2020...
Woke Brooks over here.
Put that behind you, put that behind you. That's a quote from Donald Trump. A little background. When you were talking at that rally in Coleman, that was August of last year. It wasn't recently in my mind. Why do you think he's doing this now, pulling this endorsement?
Well, let me be clear about a few things. I made the same kind of comment in the ellipse speech on January the 6th. And again, I repeated it in August of 2021. There are probably a couple of motivations. One, you've got Mitch McConnell, who's doing his darndest. He doesn't like us principled conservatives. He wants people who are malleable, who do what the special interest groups want, because that generates a lot of campaign cash. And that is Mitch McConnell's modus operandi of operating the United States Senate on the Republican side. I disagree with that. I think the way to get elected is to do a good job, not do what.
And how in the fuck are you trying to do? Like, Donald Trump has completely turned and shit on you, Mo Brooks. The only other person that you could suck up to that would help you is Mitch McConnell, and you're attacking him. You are dumb. You are real dumb, Mo.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
Special interest groups won't. But then combine that with the president has asked me to rescind the election of 2020.
You said that's illegal. You can't do that. What did he ask you, and what did you tell him?
Well, he always brings.
Oh, I'm gonna let them fight. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Take Joe Biden out and put me in now.
He still says that.
Yes, and I'm going, Mr. President. I'm giving him advice. I'm an attorney. I've read the law. I've read the Constitution. I know it, and I say, Mr. President, you can't do that. It's unconstitutional. And given a choice between
and that's the thing. All these motherfuckers are saying what you're wanting to do is completely unconstitutional, but I'll still support you. I want your endorsement. I'd vote for you for president. Make me your vice president. But yet Republicans supposedly stand for the Constitution. Blows my fucking mind. Idiots. Craven fucking idiots.
Donald Trump, who I respect, he had a lot of great policies while he was president, and the United States Constitution. I am always going to choose the Constitution because that's what my oath of office is too. And I knew that when I gave him straight shooting legal advice, that it would perturb him because it's not what he wanted to hear.
How in the world can you say a politician put you at odds between choosing them and choosing the Constitution, and you can still go on to support that politician? I swear, I just want to. I hate these people. I hate them with a passion. How stupid can you be? How evil can you be? Republicans, what is wrong with you?
Endorsement at risk, but I thought it was the honorable thing to do, so I did it.
When you say Mitch McConnell and his allies, you're saying McConnell has Trump's ear?
Brooks, no problems.
Trump is listening to bad information.
Mitch McConnell is smart enough to use intermediaries so that the president doesn't necessarily know who those intermediaries are, and the president's probably thinking that he's getting good advice from independent people. Unfortunately, that is not the way it works in the inner circle of Trump world.
Mitch McConnell got the deep state.
Prince, you have a lot of different influences from a lot of different directions, and you never really know for sure what the motivation is behind what people are doing. And that seems to occur quite often in politics, and Donald Trump's circle is not immune from it.
Real talk. I would prefer Mo Brooks as a senator than Tommy Tuberville. That's a very fucking low bar. I would prefer Mo Brooks in the Senate over Tommy Tuberville. Both of them are horrendous.
Immune to that.
Donald Trump feels that by pulling this endorsement, it's the end of the race for you, that you can't win. I also point out that Donald Trump has endorsed other candidates in previous Senate races, and at least two of those candidates lost.
Haven't won.
Well, in Alabama, he's 0 for 2.
What does that mean for your race? One suggestion is because of polling that may not show you way out ahead of the other two candidates. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think we're in very, very good shape, and we're going to continue. Basically, we've got two messages we have to get out, and if we get out those messages,
distant third
will appear very less than desirable compared to myself.
Why so?
One message is this. I'm a tax fighter. I have a long history of fighting tax increases. Katie Britt has publicly supported more tax increases than any other Republican in Alabama history. Income tax increase, property tax increase, sales tax increase, gas tax increase,
all three of the candidates in the Senate race here, horrible.
And that's not going to fly well in a Republican primary once voters are aware of it. And then you've got another candidate by the name of Mike Durant. If you're familiar with the very far left-wing Liberty Project, which is kind of doing business as More Perfect Union.
Far left-wing?
As Alabama Patriots PAC.
And a few seconds left.
They've pledged him $15 million. So Mike Durant is the Trojan horse in this race.
Mo Brooks.
He just called Mike Durant a far left wing. That is probably going to be the person who Trump endorses. The Trump endorsed candidate he just called far left wing. The presumptive Trump endorsed candidate that Trump pulled his endorsement from Mo Brooks, and the word on the street is that Durant is the candidate that he's going to endorse. But Mo says Durant is far left.
Brooks, I'm glad you're here with us after a big announcement yesterday. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
I would not be happy to have Mo Brooks here with me. I mean, unless it's like I was having a spirited debate. If he was on the troll, I would have Mo Brooks on the troll patrol. I would do that. Now let's read the full text of Mark Pomerantz's resignation letter. Pomerantz was the assistant DA. He is the former prosecutor who investigated Donald J. Trump, believed that the former president was guilty of numerous felony violations. The following is the full text of the resignation letter by Mark Pomerantz, who had investigated former President Donald J. Trump, but left after the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, halted an effort to seek an indictment. So this is his resignation letter. Dear Alvin, I write to tender my resignation as a special assistant district attorney and to explain my reasons for resigning. As you know from our recent conversations and presentations, I believe that Donald Trump is guilty of numerous felony violations of the penal law in connection with the preparation and use of his annual statements of financial condition. His financial statements were false, and he has a long history of fabricating information relating to his personal finances and lying about his assets to banks, the national media, counterparties, and many others, including the American people. The team that has been investigating Mr. Trump harbors no doubt about whether he committed crimes. He did. In late 2021, the District Attorney Cyrus Vance directed a thorough review of the facts and law relating to Mr. Trump's financial statements. Mr. Vance had been intimately involved in our investigation, attending grand jury presentations, sitting in on certain witness interviews, and receiving regular reports about the progress of the investigation. He concluded that the facts warranted prosecution, and he directed the team to present evidence to a grand jury and to seek an indictment of Mr. Trump and other defendants as soon as reasonably possible. This work was underway when you took office as district attorney. You have devoted significant time and energy to understanding the evidence we have accumulated with respect to the Trump financial statements as well as the applicable law. You have reached the decision not to go forward with the grand jury presentation and not to seek criminal charges at the present time. The investigation has been suspended indefinitely. Of course, that is your decision to make. I do not question your authority to make it, and I accept that you made it sincerely. However, a decision made in good faith may nevertheless be wrong. I believe that your decision not to prosecute Donald Trump now and on the existing record is misguided and completely contrary to the public interest. I therefore cannot continue in my current position. In my view, the public interest warrants the criminal prosecution of Mr. Trump, and such a prosecution should be brought without any further delay. Because of the complexity of the facts, the refusal of Mr. Trump and the Trump organization to cooperate with our investigation, and their affirmative steps to frustrate our ability to follow the facts, this investigation has already consumed a great deal of time. As to Mr. Trump, the great bulk of the evidence relates to his management of the Trump organization before he became President of the United States. These facts are already dated, and our ability to establish what happened may erode with further passage of time. Many of the salient facts have been made public in proceedings brought by the Office of the Attorney General, and the public has rightly inquired about the pace of our investigation. Most importantly, the further passage of time will raise additional questions about the failure to hold Mr. Trump accountable for his criminal conduct. To the extent you have raised issues as to the legal and factual sufficiency of our case and the likelihood that a prosecution would succeed, I and others have advised you that we have evidence sufficient to establish Mr. Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and we believe that the prosecution would prevail if charges were brought and the matter were tried to an impartial jury. No case is perfect. Whatever the risk of bringing the case may be, I am convinced that a failure to prosecute will pose much greater risks in terms of public confidence in the fair administration of justice. As I have suggested to you, respect for the rule of law and the need to reinforce the bedrock position that no man is above the law require that this prosecution be brought, even if a conviction is not certain. I also do not believe that suspending the investigation pending further developments will lead to a stronger case or dispel your reluctance to bring charges. No events are likely to occur that will alter the nature of the case or dramatically change the quality or quantity of the evidence available to the prosecution. There are always additional facts to be pursued, but the investigation team has been working on this matter for many months and does not believe that it makes law enforcement sense to postpone a prosecution in hopes that additional evidence will somehow emerge. On the contrary, I and others believe that your decision not to authorize prosecution now will doom any further prospects that Mr. Trump will be prosecuted for the criminal conduct we have been investigating. I fear that your decision means that Mr. Trump will not be held fully accountable for his crimes. I've worked too hard as a lawyer and for too long now to become a passive participant in what I believe to be a grave failure of justice. I therefore resigned from my position as a special assistant district attorney, effective immediately. Sincerely, Mark F. Pomerantz. Mad respect to you, Pomerantz. There has never been any doubt in my mind that Trump was guilty of numerous crimes. And the great resignation continues. Good one, Dustin. We have other developments in Trump world today. Trump himself took legal action. suing Hillary Clinton and allies over Russia claims. Suing Hillary Clinton and allies over Russia claims. I have so many friends on the left that are just like, I voted for Biden and look, nothing happened. I'm not voting for look what happened. The Democrats aren't doing anything. And I'm like, this isn't a one election thing. It takes time. The reason why the Republicans get everything they want, the reason why the Republican Party fears their base is because Republicans vote. And my contention is it would be fantastic PR for the administration to cancel student debt and legalize marijuana. And I think that right there would give you the ammunition to win elections nonstop going forward. But you would get everybody my age, and I'm 38. You get everybody fucking like 45 all the way down to like at least like 20 right now. You get all of them for all of eternity. For the foreseeable future, not for all of eternity. For the foreseeable future. That's like the civil rights moment. Caused the red shift in the South. I like the more serious tone of the new show. I like What's the Problem with Jon Stewart an awful lot. And originally a lot of the content was behind a paywall, but they've been throwing that shit up on YouTube now. And I think it is starting to go viral. Some of his interviews have been fantastic. How many anti-democracy bills? You're exactly right. How many, and like my biggest worry about this next election is school boards, city councils, state house, state senate. We're going to have a lot of insurrectionists running. A lot of people that believe that the 2020 election was stolen. That's a big fucking deal. Make no mistake about it. They're wanting to run something like 11 secretaries of state are like conspiracy theorists, QAnon adjacent motherfuckers. Donald Trump sues Hillary Clinton and allies over Russia claims, accusing Clinton conspiracy with dozens of other actors. Frequent targets of Trump's conspiracy theories and rage to topple his presidency. The new lawsuit filed Thursday in federal court in Fort Pierce, Florida, accuses Clinton, her campaign, various campaign aides, former FBI Director James Comey, the Democratic National Committee, and others of racketeering conspiracy for allegedly joining in an unthinkable plot to falsely accuse Trump of colluding with Russia in the 2016 presidential election. I can't imagine that these lawsuits don't get thrown out. All you got to do is just like hold up the Senate Intelligence Committee report and it's like, all right, yeah. In the run-up to the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience, and it is an affront to this nation's democracy, the complaint says. Acting in concert, the defendants maliciously conspired to weave a false narrative that their Republican opponent, Donald J. Trump, was colluding with a hostile foreign sovereignty. The suit accused the defendants of obstruction of justice and theft of trade secrets, as well as unlawful hacking into Trump's private communications. The sprawling 108-page complaint reads like a greatest hits of Trump's long-held grievances against the public figures most closely associated with the investigation of his campaign's ties to Russia in 2016. It stitches together desperate details of unearthed in the ongoing investigation by special counsel John Durham, as well as long-known details about the FBI's Russia probe and special counsel Robert Mueller's subsequent investigation. The suit appears to seek more than $72 million in damages, which the complaint says is the tally of legal fees and other costs of defending against the alleged untruths. In another court filing in the case, Trump's attorneys asked for only $21 million. Right-wingers and morons. Biden was in Poland at an emergency meeting with NATO allies. At an emergency, some $1 billion. Biden spoke after the emergency summit of NATO.
This is an ABC News special report.
It's like a 20-minute speech. You know, you guys know the way I am with Biden speeches. We get like 3 minutes in, and I'm like,
here from the Ukraine-Poland border because President Biden here in Europe is about to hold a news conference involving NATO's emergency summit in Brussels. NATO agreeing to substantially increase defense forces in Eastern Europe as a show of force, of course, to counter Russia's war in Ukraine. Today marks 1 month since the invasion of Ukraine began. NATO allies leveling new sanctions on hundreds.
Has it been a month already?
Companies. Ukraine's President Zelensky.
Bernie has already ruled out another run, and I wouldn't want him to run again. It's time to pass it on. Katie Porter. I want Katie Porter in the primary in 2024.
Speaking after this NATO emergency summit.
I need to make a video about it.
Good evening, everyone. With all the press is here, you must be getting very tired. Am I the 16th or 17th? At any rate, all kidding aside, thank you for taking the time.
I think that's projection. I think Joe Biden is tired.
1 month since Russia began its carnage in Ukraine, the brutal invasion of Ukraine. And we held a NATO summit the very next day. At that time, my overwhelming objective in wanting that summit was to have absolute unity on 3 key important issues among our NATO and European allies. First was to support Ukraine with military and humanitarian assistance. Second was to impose the most significant sanctions, economic sanction regime ever, in order
to say Jesus Christ,
economy and punish him for his actions. Third was to fortify the eastern flank of our NATO allies, who were obviously very, very concerned.
Love me some Nina Turner. I don't know if she's ready for that. I really want Nina Turner in the Senate.
We accomplished all 3 of these. And today we're determined to sustain those efforts and to build on them. The United States is committed to provide over
more of a profile.
$1 billion in military equipment to Ukraine since I became president.
That's not a statement on Nina Turner's capabilities by any means. She needs to be introduced to the public in high profile way in like a national Senate race. Or in Congress. I believe she's running for Congress.
Anti-air systems, anti-armor systems, ammunition, and our weapons are flowing into...
I'm not high enough for this shit. Somebody hit the rips.
And today, I'm announcing the United States is prepared to commit more than $1 billion in humanitarian assistance.
$1 billion. There you got it.
Of Ukrainians affected by the war in Ukraine. Many Ukrainian refugees will...
Man, there have been articles, and I think they're clickbait. There have been articles about, you know who would be great to run in 2024? Who would be great to replace Joe Biden? Hillary Clinton. Oh, dear God, save us. Save us. My connection keeps bouncing back and forth, guys. I might try to fix that here. Click on another server. We're going to let Joe Biden speak. I'm going to click on another server. Give it like 2 minutes tops and refresh. Maybe just a minute if I go away here.
Will wish to stay in Europe, closer to their homes. But we've also will welcome 100,000 Ukrainians to the United States to reinforce the Eastern Front. Putin was banking on NATO being split. My early conversation with him in December and early January, it was clear to me he didn't think we could sustain this cohesion. NATO has never been more united than it is today. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine. We've built that same unity with the European Union and with the leading democracies of the G7, in the G7. So I want to thank you, and I'll be now happy to take
Moo.
Since there's so many people out
It's
there,
still bouncing up and down.
list. Now, how about Chris of the Associated Press? First.
It's possible it's my actual internet bouncing up and down, and not my VPN this time.
Question.
Oh, we got questions. I like
Jinping of China.